As we get older, life is going to test us. Life's going to shake us. Life is going to shatter us sometimes to pieces. It's very important when you are in your most shattering times is that the storm is not going to last forever. It may last weeks, months, years, but guess what? The strongest warriors usually have the toughest battles, and that's something that I learned recently. But in those times, it's important to
Two, one. Wait, what's that like?
it's okay. I am a visual designer and an art director. So that basically means during the day, my 9 to 5, I work as an art director for a company, and I freelance as a creative storyteller. So basically from graphic design to social media marketing to photography, videography, any sort of design, creative project. I like to help like-minded folks, small businesses, people who are entrepreneurial, if you will. I like to collaborate with them and work on projects with them. That's what I do on my free time. So it's more so my passion work, if you will. I grew up on Long Island, and I have two sisters, and my parents were ministers. So I'm a pastor's daughter and pastor's granddaughter. So my life was basically super sheltered. My life was church. My life was a private school that was also Christian-based. So I grew up in a very closely knit community, which super grateful for because I learned consistency in relationships very young and consistency in good people very young. And I'm still good friends with these people today, but I think how my upbringing has influenced me as an adult is that because I grew up very sheltered, as an adult, I grew up wanting to do a lot of things differently than what I grew up knowing. So for example, I moved out of New York, which was my entire life. I moved to the West Coast by myself. I moved here in Philly by myself. I have family here, it's different, but I've always been, as an adult, I guess you could say that like right now my wavelength or my life path is very, very different from what I grew up knowing, and I'm very, very okay with that. So I dance to the beat of my own drum, pretty much, and I'm totally fine with that. So I'm a Libra, and what that means is we're the coolest of the zodiac, apparently. We tend to be diplomatic, artsy, creative. We like cultured things, like like going to art shows or Broadway shows or the orchestra, things like that. We're social people. We like to host parties. We like to make friends. Another thing about us is that we tend to be indecisive because we're the scale. So sometimes that brings on unwanted anxiety, like, what should I do? So that I do tend to be that way sometimes about big life decisions, and I'm working on it. But something that happened to me recently, and I guess this woman, I have to thank her for waking me up a little bit because something about me is that like when I go through something, I tend to shut down. And I think that's also a Libra tendency, is that we hate confrontation. And when we face confrontation, we tend to just sort of just shy away, shut down, shell up, and that's what I was doing for like this past year, I guess. So I went to see a psychic just at random. I was at this like art show at Cherry Pier, and she had psychic readings for $10. I'm like, okay. So she kind of woke me up a little bit because she kind of exposed me. She said, you've been in hiding for the past, this many months and blah, blah, blah. She asked me, how's your business going? How's your freelance things going? And I'm like, I haven't really been doing that lately. She's like, why? And then I was like, well, and I told her. She's like, so she like was basically giving me like a 3-minute pep talk about how you need to get up, get out, put yourself out there, you need to shine, you're meant to help people, you're meant to share your gifts, you're meant to tell your story. Like she was saying all this stuff and I was just like, well, okay then, So yeah, I mean like, she kind of like, like I said, woke me up. And since then, I came out of my shell. I started posting on Instagram again because I wasn't posting on any of my social medias for months, I guess. But I mean, I have her to thank because like I feel brave enough to put myself out there, and this evolved version of myself is kind of showing. And I'm really grateful that she gave me that pep talk because I needed it. I needed to hear what she needed to say, and she talked to me for like a good 20, 25 minutes about what I needed to do, and I was like, all right, well, this is the best $10 I've ever spent, so thank you.
So they see like everything we can do right here.
Do you? You ever see Poetic Justice movie with Tupac and Janet Jackson? Tupac and Janet Jackson. This is back in the 90s. Yeah. But they went to the.
I'ma save. I'm gonna post this genre. I'm gonna just say look for me at, and then just the at name.
Okay. And then the mentions. You know how to go to the mentions tab?
Nah.
It'll be yeah. So I mean you go with the little cameo and stuff.
I tend to gravitate more towards graphic design as far as what I love doing, mostly because it's the projects is where I get to spend the most time alone and creating with my music and my thoughts, if you will. And I love the process of starting from sketch to implementing it to the final version of and then presenting it. Yeah, that I love more, especially these days, more so than like the art directing stuff because client dynamics is tricky sometimes and it sort of takes the joy out of the creative process, because you're creating on the expectation of somebody else, and it's great. A lot of times the money's also great, but it's the relationship dynamics that's tricky a lot of the time. So like I said, the graphic design stuff is like, it's a process. I love the process. I love the building of start to finish, concept to completion. That's the corporate term. And yeah, if I could do that for the rest of my life, I totally would. How do I connect my spirituality to my gifts? One, I know that I have a gift of creating, but I know that this gift is not something that I made. It was something that was given to me. So God gave me this gift of creation, right? Of graphic design creation. So that's number one, is that like I keep myself humble by knowing that this gift was given to me and it belongs to Him, and me sharing it with others is my way of showing gratitude back to God, right? How do I connect the two? I think like when you're working under pressure, sometimes you can produce, but like if you're in a peaceful, calm environment, whether you're meditating or you're praying, listening to music that calms you down, you know, whatever your vice is, let's call it a vice. You know, like that stuff is definitely connected because your creativity comes from within, as does your spirituality. So some people aren't spiritual, which is fine, you know, but for me personally, I know that my creative gifts come from God, and me sharing it with others is how I connect the two. So I always try to stay humble. You know, I don't always try to like show off, you know, like look what I did, you know, like I try to not do that. Even when I present, I'm just like, okay, here it is, you know. But like, you know, I try to really remove my ego when I'm working, and that could be hard sometimes because, like we were just talking before, how like the client doesn't know what it took to get from point A to point Z, and sometimes they're not happy with, you know, point M, you know, so they want to change it, and you're like, you know, so like, you know, removing the ego, it takes practice. So grounding yourself in your beliefs, your rationale, your what keeps you calm, what keeps you sane, what makes you happy, that's how I connect the two. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kind of because there's a festival going on outside, but but I have different
You know what?
types of music. Yeah.
I'm not even gonna stop the recording.
Okay.
I'm gonna have you take it from the top again.
Okay.
It cuts you off for whatever reason, so
Oh.
I didn't hear the
Is it
first
like
part.
range?
I mean,
Maybe.
it may be. I think
Okay.
that may be what it is.
Range.
We're gonna put this all the way
Crazy and deranged.
100. You're set up, and as you were.
All right. Am I snapped in?
There you go. Cut it back.
It's kind of relevant because there's a music festival going on outside, some sort of festival outside. I have different types of music that I listen to when I'm working. In the research phase, definitely softer music, like I'll dabble into lo-fi hip hop or classical just to sort of calm my mind and concentrate on what I'm trying to take in, the research I'm trying to take in. Then when it comes to like producing, you know, starting the process of creating, most of the time I'm listening to fast-paced music because I need my brain to just like pump a little bit. So a lot that music would usually entail something like, I don't want to say EDM. I guess EDM types of music, like definitely like music. So not really sure what to call it. I don't want to say EDM because that's like just generalizing it too much, but definitely music that's like pumping. Like I'll listen to like Telephone from Lady Gaga and listen to that over and over again while I'm working, you know? You know, and sometimes like I'll listen to songs on repeat because it helps my flow. You know, I don't know if it's like the drums or the beat in the music or in the song, but I tend to do that. I have like a playlist of like random beat songs that like help my brain just like expand and pump, and it just helps the blood flow, I guess, to my hands in creating. So yeah, I'm definitely open, but I guess it really depends on what I'm doing. So to sum up the long answer, the research stuff is softer music, but the production stuff is faster, just to help the creation process. Yes, one of his songs that I liked. Hold on one second. Ambition, ambition, ambition. This one. It's I'll Be Seeing You from Etta James. That's the beginning of her song, and it's just on loop.
Okay.
This is his playlist, but I think who mixed the song was Flughand. Flughand, yeah. I like, yeah. Anyway, Ambition Music he has good taste in lo-fi tunes. These days, I've been listening to more lo-fi hip hop, mostly because I tend to like the mashup of what's going on musically in the songs. Like you'll hear like beats on loop, and then also you'll hear little snippets of old songs from like the 30s that are on loop. Like there's a song from Etta James, I think it's Etta James, I'll Be Seeing You, and it's just the piano tune in the beginning of that song that's on loop. And I recognized it because I love old classic music and Hollywood things. But I like that music because it's a mixture of old and new, which is definitely something that speaks to me. I'm definitely an old soul, but like a millennial that's an old soul, you know? So definitely like Miss iPhone that likes to listen to Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra, you know what I mean? So it's, lo-fi is definitely something that speaks to my nature as far as who I am as a person. So I tend to listen to that more these days.
Two, one.
I think it's important to have more women in media, creative industry types, because a lot of the people that I look up to don't look like me. You know, like Paula Shear, Stefan Sagmeister, what's the other guy? Chip Kidd. They're all white, but they're all great at what they do. I wish that there was like a Latino Chip Kidd who, and I'll tell you briefly who Chip Kidd is. He's the guy who designed the Jurassic Park logo, and you know, it was a book cover, or sorry, it was a cover that he made for a poster, and now it's like an iconic dinosaur that we all know. So guys like him, and then Paula Shear, she's big in New York because she was sort of a trendsetter of New York style graphic design. So she was an original creator of this poster that had a lot of typography, and a lot of people mimicked after that was created. A lot of people mimicked that sign, and she was basically the creator of like the art look in New York. So if you notice that like in New York there's a lot of type, you know, in signs and in like, you know, posters on the subway. She created that style. She's white though. Stefan Sagmeister, he's this really chill, like very stoic, you know, type of man who has his own philosophies of creation. He's also a graphic designer. I admire his outlook on life because he believes in quality of life, also producing good work. He has a lot of great talks on YouTube. You know, I recommend that we all watch. But again, none of these people look like me, you know? So like if I could be like the Afro-Latina Paula Shear or something, you know, or the Chip Kidd, that would be cool, you know? And I think that it's important for minorities, whether you're Black, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, whatever. I think it's important to have representation in your gifts, you know? And it's the people who I just mentioned, I look up to them because they're the trendsetters. I want to know who the other trendsetters are in their communities, whether you're from China or whether you're from Peru, you know, wherever you're from. I want to know how you impacted your community by using your gifts. So, but going back to the women, yeah, I would love to see more women like Paula Shear making trends happen. You know, there's a lot of women in fashion design, you know, in interior design, but like I want to see more women doing more, like, you know, and I'm sure there are, and we've come a long way since like, I don't know, the 50s, but like, you know, I just wish that like, you know, women were talked about in a way that's outside of feminism, just more so in like the trend setting, the artistic impact, the cultural impact, because it's been said that women are the architects of society. So I wish that there were more creative Michelle Obamas out there. I do, I really do. If I could see that more in mainstream media, YouTube media, whatever, I would love that. I honestly would love that. But, you know, we're all still young in this media life that's, I don't know, however many years old. I'm sure it'll happen in time, but that's just something that I've always wished when I was in art schools. Like, I wish that there were more designers and people who I'm listening to during this lecture that looked like me. So something simple, but that's all. People, sorry, do that again. Individuals who influence me, I want to say one, spiritually and creatively, because I got this gift from him genetically. My grandfather, he's no longer with us, but he was an artist for the medical industry. He used to design or create illustrations for medical textbooks and posters and things. And he actually, I was going to quit graphic design years ago, but he actually talked me into it. And then shortly after that, he passed away. So I have him to thank for me continuing my gift after almost wanting to give it up. And people who influence me now, I want to say my peers, my creative peers influence me, because I love people who organically want to create and share their gifts, whether they're beginners or advanced. I love surrounding myself by people with a drive. Another group, I guess, are artists that I see on Instagram, whether they're stop motion artists or, music artists. I like seeing artists on the internet and learning about them, following their blog or their Instagram feed, whatever. And lastly, who influences me are people who have peace in their heart. I'm not really impressed by money and riches. I'm not really impressed by celebrity and fame. I mean, it's great to have, I'm sure. But what I'm really impressed by are people who have peace of mind and who have a life that they're happy with, and it's a life that they created and that they chose. Those are the people that influence me the most, because I look up to that and aspire to be that every day. I'm practicing. I'm trying to be that every day. How do I feel about staying in tune with my Afro-Latina culture background, if you will? I love being in tune with my culture because I feel like having the best of both worlds, being Black and Puerto Rican, is I get to be part of very rich cultures as far as music, food, language, island living, experiencing the country, even like experiencing Africa is awesome. The negative side of being in tune with the culture is that you kind of are in a weird place because ignorant people will sort of make comments like, oh, you're Black, or oh, you're not Latino enough, or you're this or that. And it's like, you kind of like feel like, well, I can be mac and cheese just as much as plátano maduros, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't have to be too much of anything. I'm each equal amount of both, which is what I love about what I am, I can love soul food and empanadas all at once, and it's not like I have to choose one or the other to be happy. I'm happily being both, so I think everybody should embrace that. What's in store for the future? Well, my personal checklist is to marry the love of my life, I want to have twin boys, buy a townhouse, live a flexible life of traveling and working, having that security and stability. And I also intend to have a career change, but still using my creativity in that. I intend to go into nutrition and to influence my community by eating healthy and really being mindful of nutrition when you go grocery shopping or when you cook or when you eat out or when so I think nutrition isn't spoken about a lot, and it's definitely not spoken about in the medical industry enough. I think it's like a separate entity on its own, which I don't understand. I definitely want to be a positive voice in the nutrition field for my community, and definitely tell the story of that using my graphic storytelling gifts. and of course having a team, beside me doing that. But I definitely want to be like this super mom, super wife, graphic designer, nutritionist, teacher, person, like whoop. But yeah, I definitely have like an ecosystem that I want to create for this nutrition idea, but it's an idea that's bigger than me, but I'm excited for it. But first things first, I want to get married and have those things done first. So that's what I want to do. Keep doing that. Me. Types of movies that I like. Classic Hollywood, I do. I do like, I like movies that bring me to another time or to another galaxy, if you will. I do like the nerdy stuff like Marvel and like superhero stuff. Wonder Woman was one of my favorite movies ever. I can talk about that, but what's another one? I like Quentin Tarantino movies because Quentin offers like an experience when you watch his movies. Obviously it's that director's style, the actors that he chooses, all great. He also offers a really impressive playlist of music, which is also available after the movies are out. I just like the experience that his movies bring, and also I just love how wildly inaccurate his movies are. It's just a really creative way of telling an event that took place, and he just puts his own spin on it. And as gory and as gross as his movies can be, I still kind of love it, because it's outrageous, and I kind of like things that are outrageous. So yeah, and I also like movies that are visually appealing. Obviously like movies that are just colorful, or like Finding Nemo. It's silly to bring that up, but like movies like that, Pixar movies that are just visually beautiful, I love and flock to those. I love animation movies. Because obviously I'm an artist, so I appreciate the hard work that goes behind movies like that. Yeah, honestly, I just like anything that's just stimulating and different. I'm not really into romantic movies. I can watch it every now and then because my sisters like to watch those, but those aren't my first choice. I like action movies, things that are just like stimulating and like pump me up. I like those. My routines. Routines to me are very important. I'm a morning person, and I've always been this way. Been a commuter since I was like 16 years old, 16, 18 years old. So waking up early is not a problem for me. I can start my day as early as 5 a.m. and do things that start my day in a more peaceful way. I need my mornings to be peaceful. That's why I like waking up early, because everyone else is asleep and it's just me. I'll usually put on some like music, lo-fi, hip hop these days. Obviously shower, work out, or do yoga, and I walk my dog every morning. We go for a half an hour walk every day, rain, shine, snow, sleet. So it's good exercise for the both of us. And I definitely make sure that I eat before I leave the house, because I don't like leaving the house hungry. Definitely affects my mood. So I definitely make the time to take care of myself in the morning, and that actually affects my day and my productivity flow, because the thing that I least like, and this is probably an unpopular opinion, is coming to work with my breakfast in hand and like eating while working. I don't like that. I mean, if I snack while I'm working, that's different, but like if I need to start my day answering emails and eating, I'd rather not worry about having to wipe my hands and I need to be focused when I'm working. So having those routines in the morning before I begin my workday are very, very important for me. It just sets the tone for the day. Oh, sorry. I not meal prep. I plan my meals beforehand.
Okay, we do that.
Yes. So I know what to look for when I'm shopping, and I know what I'm cooking on certain days, whether it's takeout or, something else. So it's just that also gives me a routine peace of mind. I'm flexible, I can change it, but you know, having my foods planned is something that I grew to have as an adult, but it just helps me a lot because it's just meal planning, budget planning, like those are things that I have ingrained in me as a 32-year-old woman. It's like I can't like go grocery shopping and spend $200 every time I go. That's just ludicrous. That's crazy. I mean, if I have the money, sure, but like I can't do that. I can't just like, oh, just buy everything. Like, no, no way.
You would come home, like, I know what you mean.
Huh?
No. I'm talking to the groceries.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. I'm hungry. I want all of this.
Two.
Advice. I'm going to give human advice first. As we get older, life is going to test us. Life's going to shake us. Life is going to shatter us sometimes to pieces. It's very important when you are in your most shattering times is that the storm is not going to last forever. It may last weeks, months, years, but guess what? The strongest warriors usually have the toughest battles, and that's something that I learned recently. But in those times, it's important to believe in something that's bigger than you, that's on your side, whether it's God, the universe, you know, whoever you pray to, you know, or divine self, whichever is your version of spirituality. It's important to have a belief system when you're in your most hurtful times because depression, sadness, those are very addictive feelings, and it's very comfortable to feel depressed because it's like, woe is me, and it's like a security blanket that you just want to wear all the time, and you want to blame other things outside of you for what's going on, and it's very easy to do that. But it's important to try to have an aerial perspective where you see above the storm. You know what I mean? You're not the storm, you are above it. You might be going through it, but eventually you're going to get up and you're going to get out of it. And while you're in that, lastly, it's important to know that you have a support system, whether it's your family, your friends who are your family, maybe your mentors, your teachers, people who you work with. You know, it's important to remember your support system when you're going through a hard time. And advice to women, especially in the creative field, it's a little hard for us sometimes because, especially if you're working with men or working for a man, some men are a little bit more like, they're a little bit more liberal, but like the old school mentality of man tends to look down on you and maybe talk down to you. Trust me, it's happened to me a lot of times. Because I was raised by strong men, I was able to develop a strong voice in my beliefs and in my design rationale, my creative rationale, even in my work ethic. I'm not afraid to speak up on what I believe is right, especially when I'm facing a perspective that is outright wrong. So if this is you, don't be afraid to take a stand for what you believe in, for your work ethic. Don't ever let any person, man or woman, put you down, ever. Because it's important that you hold your own, you have a voice, and you have a style that is yours. Those are the things that are going to carry you throughout your career. And it only gets better and better, and you get better and better as time goes on, trust me. I used to be this quiet person that sat in the back of my design classes, not saying anything, and now it's not the case. So don't be afraid to speak up is my advice to women in the creative field, but do it respectfully. You don't want to be like, I don't want to say emotional, that's not the right word, but you want to come out sounding strong in your voice. So make sure that you sound strong in your rationale and the things that you say, because that is what creates more of a ripple effect. Remember what I said, we need more Michelle Obamas in the design industry. That's my advice to you women.